We shouldn't get bogged down in this because this is just stuff I've got to edit out.
It's been a busy week in Spinnerproof land, hasn't it?
Yeah, I've been heating my room up quite a lot. How many? I should have figured out. I should have figured out how many hours of video I encoded in 2 days, but it was a lot.
So I think an average episode length for us is about 1 hour 45, and you did 74 of those.
70. Oh, it's 74. I was going to say 75, but yeah, 74 because one of them was already done.
Did I stutter? I'm hoping that you're now working that out because I can't be bothered.
Oh my goodness me.
74 times 1 3/4. That shouldn't be too hard. 74 times 2 is 148.
128-ish hours.
So how close are we to a week of content?
I don't know. Close.
175 hours would be a week.
Yeah, so 128 hours. So we're not a huge amount off. Couple of days.
We're basically at a working week.
Yeah, we've done a work week worth of content now.
Excellent. We'll now have a work week worth of content off, yeah?
Oh, of content. I feel dirty now having said that. We're just content producers now. Content creators, sorry.
We're YouTube content creators now.
Oh, this is disgusting to me that over this lockdown I've become a YouTuber. It's terrible.
So, context for those who don't know, because we really haven't worked hard to publicise this at all. Because we never work hard to publicise anything. Every episode of Spinnerproof is now on YouTube. It is up as an audio file with a background. Don't expect anything more than that. The show notes are linked in the description. They are not copied over and formatted. This is the minimum possible effort to get episodes onto YouTube, and the minimum possible effort it will stay.
I really enjoy that in the description for every one, you sort of say Spinnerproof is an audio show best enjoyed somewhere else.
Yeah. The best place to listen to this podcast is still your podcast player. The second best is still the website. And YouTube is third.
The website, I think if you got it pains me to say it, but the audio player on the website is not very good. I didn't put much time into it. So probably YouTube is better than that.
No, because if you're already on the page, on the website, you've got the show notes in full already accessible.
This is true.
That's why I say that is the superior experience.
I would rather people listened on the website than YouTube. But, ideally, people would use an actual podcast app on their phone, like normal people.
But we are pragmatic people. We realise that not everyone does that, so hopefully this does make things just a little bit more accessible.
The reality of what's happened here is that over the years, people have asked us to put it on YouTube, and I've always had a firm line, no. But I had a bored morning, and so I finally was bored into submission about this, and I thought, fine, I will write a script to automate as much of this as possible, and then spent 2 days rendering and uploading videos.
So we will keep putting new episodes up.
Yeah.
That was kind of meant to have a question mark on the end of it because we hadn't actually discussed that. I will say, though, they will not necessarily be up at the same time as it comes out properly. There could be delay. So if you want that sweet, sweet Spinnerproof at the earliest possible convenience, podcast player is still the way.
Yeah, subscribe directly to the RSS feed and you'll know the second it goes live.
Can you ring a bell on the notification feed? The RSS feed thing that you just said and I already forgot.
No, because you can't do. There's no bells involved in this. I mean, we could make a mailing list if you really wanted to. We could make a mailing list and email people when Spinnerproof is released. But I don't want a list of people's email addresses. That's a responsibility that I don't want.
I mean, we're not bound by GDPR.
Are we not? Why not?
Because we're not an organisation with over a certain number of employees.
We have 0 employees.
But yeah, they are now on YouTube. Enjoy them there if you wish. It is completely up to people how they consume this at the end of the day.
Enjoy them there. Stop complaining to me that they're not on YouTube. They are now. And what's there is the best it will ever be. So, that's it. Be happy.
And the YouTube channel is still there for sort of random robot-y things as well.
I also saw that people have commented about my previous comments about us not being on YouTube and how that hasn't aged well. And but
I hadn't
yes,
thought about that, actually.
that has technically not aged well, but my dislike of YouTube is as strong as ever.
I mean, if anything, it's slightly stronger after it decided that despite all of these videos being made public in the correct order, it would still put 3 in the wrong place on their actual feed.
That's so annoying. Like, I carefully uploaded them in the right order, you carefully made them public in the right order, and then YouTube screwed up and has listed them in the wrong order.
And as far as I can tell, there's no way to fix it.
Anyway, before this descends into the mad ravings of a person that doesn't like YouTube very much, we should move on.
Move on to more good news in the world of... It just isn't really world of YouTube at all, but when I link to it, it's going to be in the form of a YouTube video, so there's that.
Look, it's in the world of things that are much better than YouTube.
That is very true. I still don't know how to title and refer to this, because it's not something that I've ever really used before. And this is the Good Robottle Robot Arena 2 Recreations Pack things, which now has had a big Beetleweight expansion, which includes Hello There. And, you know, being the narcissist that I am, that was the only reason I was ever going to use it. No, of course not. It was, however, the kick I needed to actually try it out, and I've been having a huge amount of fun, because as far as I can tell within the balance of the game, Hello There is slightly overpowered. Certainly, in comparison to reality, it's heavily overpowered. I mean, it's not overpowered in the sense that, you know, your bite force is overpowered. Or powered, as would probably be the term for that. But I've been winning a lot of fights with it, and I probably shouldn't be winning a lot of fights.
No, that's unacceptable. Hello There can't be winning fights.
It's just interesting, because it's completely the sort of... This is going to sound like a criticism, but it's not. It's really good in terms of gameplay. Driving it in the game is the complete opposite experience of driving it in reality. It turns super fast, and the hammer throws you in the air when you fire it.
That's not Hello There.
This is the kind of Hello There that I was maybe envisioning when we first designed it.
Yeah, this is what we wanted it to be.
Yeah, it's just super cool that it's in there. It's a sort of first true immortalization of what we've made, if that makes sense.
Can we try and make this a bit less narcissistic? I mean, the whole pack looks incredible.
That was going to be my next point. I actually made sure that I played other robots first. And just the whole feel of it to play is fantastic. I started with Dwayne Nibley, of course, greatest Beetleweight ever made. Been playing around with Ogre Drive as well. And Two-Headed Death Flamingo. They were my sort of go-tos to begin with. And yeah, I've been having far too much fun with it. And I'm ashamed that it took me this long to pick up the game and start playing it and get it working properly.
Well, look, you've got one silver lining here, which is that you've picked it up faster than I have.
But by the time this episode is, edited out, I'm sure you'll have played a lot. If anything, it will probably delay the release of this episode.
Yeah, probably. If this takes more than a few days, then you know why.
If we can work out a way to play it together, we will.
Yep.
Odds of that are quite slim with my computer, but there we go.
If we can work out a way for both of us to play it together and stream it, we will. But I don't have high hopes for us figuring that out.
If not, you'll just have to stream it independently.
I'll stream it on my own, yeah. I will do that.
I will be there in voice, mocking your abilities. Just like with the Kerbal.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
So I think that's all the front matter / well, it wasn't really any follow-up at all, because I've forgotten what happened last episode already. It was ages ago. I do know there would have been a lot of retuncty.
Last episode is the past, and we're in the present. So let's consider the present. So up first, we're going to be talking about Chomp versus Warhawk.
Just having that moment, sort of intake of breath, as I prepared to start a conversation about Chomp on the internet. Also have a sharper intake of breath as I realise that I've got the notes wrong. Just deal with that immediately.
Every time you get the notes wrong, and it's wonderful.
It's just trust my counting on those numbers that I've put down. You know what, actually, what I was fixing there was the win-loss numbers of Chomp. And they're the last thing I want to talk about when we talk about Chomp.
Where do you want to begin then? Where do we start with such majesty as Chomp?
I think when you're thinking about Chomp and its potential to win a specific fight, it's almost entirely about matchup, which is what, in principle, I suppose every Retunkti conversation should be. And I don't know if having the win-loss numbers in front of me sort of distracts me from that, but this is a horrible matchup for Chomp.
Yeah, I'm looking. Is there any like exposed? I mean, there are exposed chains on Warhawk that it could hit conceivably.
Yeah, so this episode's reminder that we're not talking about 2019 versions of robots. So we are talking the original Warhawk, which had the big sort of exposed weapon motor on top, and also the sort of strange but quite elegant chain drive for both the front and rear drive. They got those kind of central motors with the chains going forwards and backwards, which looks amazing and is, I'm sure, quite efficient, but would be a target for any overhead attack. But you still feel that Chomp, it is, yes, a robot that very rarely gets knocked out, or certainly knocked out by being damaged, but it's still, just as a hammer in general, isn't particularly well equipped to take on a robot that as soon as it touches it is going to flip it over. And even with the automation in terms of timing the weapon, they're still going to have a difficult time coming out of any sort of engagement on top.
The thing about Chomp is it's so unpredictable, and it's almost as affected by its own weapon as any other weapon. Like, whenever they fire that thing, it sends Chomp flying. And so even if Warhawk's like never sort of properly spins up or anything, you sort of think Chomp's going to spend most of the fight flailing on its side anyway.
There was a time, a brief time, where they turned the weapon down on purpose to try and prevent that.
Yeah.
So do we argue that for the purpose of this fight they do that, which makes it less of a factor, not a non-factor, but less of a factor?
I don't think there's like a history of them consistently doing that, though, is it? Like,
I think they did it for the last couple of fights in 2018. But I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which fights those were or how well they went for them.
I mean, it's obviously an option for them to do it, but I don't know. I don't know.
It's tough because I've always rated Chomp. I still think it is sort of the... I was going to say the best example of a hammer we have. Maybe Shatter's taken that now, but that's a 2019 thing, so don't have to worry about it. In terms of raw power and the ability to be accurate by hammer standards, it is the best example of a hammer we have. There are compromises in other areas, sure, but if you're ever looking at a hammer that's going to score either a KO hit or a hit that heavily changes the direction of the fight by taking out a weapon, Chomp is the one. So it's not a robot you can ever rule out of a matchup. There is more potential for Chomp to one-shot that weapon motor on the top of Warhawk than there is really any other hammer to do it.
And that weapon motor, I don't know, like I feel like that would be quite delicate as well, isn't it? Like, one hit up there, because it doesn't look like it has any particular protection on Warhawk, that motor. And I feel like once you've dented the casing, that's it. Like, the motor's dead, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable to say that if a Chomp power hammer swing hits that motor is not working anymore.
And like that's quite a big target as far as targets on the back of robots go.
Yeah. In fact, I would say, when it comes to the top of Warhawk, probably about 50% of it is a place that Warhawk would not want to be hit. Yeah, it's a place where they would actively lose something important, whether that was a drive chain or part of the weapon setup.
How fast is Warhawk?
It's nippy.
I'm kind of torn here, right? Because like, although I've sort of said, you know, Chomp is this sort of chaotic, unpredictable thing, and Warhawk does have that big, presumably quite powerful spinner, I'm sort of like, well, there's such a huge area for Chomp to hit. And although it's a bit chaotic, it can land hits. And I feel like generally does land some hits, like at least one hit maybe, but like, Again, I feel like I'm fighting my own bias. I really like Chomp, so I want it to win this fight. So maybe I'm being unfair and optimistic for Chomp's performance, but I feel like there's reasonable odds for Chomp to hit that motor and/or a chain and seriously cripple Warhawk here.
I feel you when it comes to fighting biases. Because I'm fighting a couple. One, I know that my love of Chomp will make me sort of look on it a bit favourably. So I know that I'm trying to avoid that. But I'm also trying to avoid going too far the other way and becoming part of the lol Chomp flail around and fall over argument. Because I don't want to do that either. So I'm like trying to find a mid-ground. But the fact I'm trying to find that mid-ground at all is then too many layers of interpretation for me to feel confident in what I'm saying. I'm just playing one big mental game here. I do feel that one of the things that Chomp is kind of weak against is an aggressive driving style from an opponent, which Warhawk will have.
Yeah.
There's a lot of potential for Chomp to really struggle with kind of hit and run tactics, especially from a weapon that we know has enough power to get them off the ground and probably over. And we know that from there it will take them probably a couple of attempts to self-right because that's just the setup they have. So I don't feel in any way that I can put this fully in Chomp's favour.
No, I feel like so much of this comes down to the opening moments of the fight and the ongoing aggression from Warhawk. Because like if Warhawk can, and let's face it, it probably can knock Chomp onto its side and then keep it there. Who did this? One of the Warachi robots did this, didn't they?
This was Warrior Dragon, but that was when Chomp had their weird experimental self-righting setup that didn't work. They then went back to the little fins, which were more chaotic, but that was better than the very predictable self-righting that Warrior Dragon was able to exploit.
Yeah. But it's sort of like, that sort of very aggressive driving is shown to be... Was that 2019? Can we talk about this?
No, Chomp wasn't in 2019.
Oh, of course not, yeah. So, like, I don't know. Like I said, if Warhawk gets them on their side, I think it's... chaotic self-righting or not, I think it's... I wouldn't go so far as to say it's easy, but, like, it's definitely possible to keep Chomp on its side for most of the fight. And then what can they do? So it's sort of tricky. I feel like there's a lot of options for both robots to win this, really. But then Chomp is also a really like hardy robot. So can Warhawk deliver enough damage to knock Chomp out?
See, that's the thinking for me. This is just looking at the history of Chomp. This is almost certainly going to the judges.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's a question of which has the greater ability to score points. And it's very easy for Warhawk to create a situation in which Chomp can't reliably score points. Warhawk can easily neuter Chomp's ability to show aggression and control. Even if Chomp manages to take their weapon out, they could still out-aggress Chomp by staying on them when they're over.
I think you're right. I think this is probably going to go to the judges, and I think I would have to give this in favour of Warhawk. And I think I'm trying to sort of like imagine if this were actually happening, if this were around on BattleBots and we were having this conversation, I think what I'd be feeling is I want Chomp to win. I think Warhawk is going to, though.
Yeah.
I think that's how I feel. I'd definitely be, cheering Team Chomp on, but I would expect them not to win.
Would you be doing the Chomp hands?
I mean, you know me, Ryan. I definitely get really into watching this stuff and take part when watching from the comfort of my own home. For all you know, I'm doing the Chomp hands right now.
Sam's such a bad Ratunksi host. He's doing the Chomp hands before the fight.
Oh, no. Oh, dear.
Signed, a life viewer of the fight. So I'm just amusing myself now. You don't remember any of this, do you?
I mean, I feel like I know what you're getting at, but no, I've moved on from that. I've let the past die.
You're the one person in the whole Robot Combat community that's moved on.
I'm probably like the least involved in the robot community you can be while still being technically involved.
Certainly while hosting a podcast, yeah. Right, let's put some numbers on this and just bring the madness to an end.
I'm going to say 3 and 4 and see how you feel about that.
I was going to say 2 and 5.
Ooh, okay.
Because my heart says 3 and 4, I think that makes it 2 and 5.
Yeah, but if my heart says 3 and 4, what does that mean?
Probably 2 and 5. For me, it's a question of win conditions. There are more ways that Warhawk wins this fight.
Yeah, but I think for Warhawk to do it, it needs a consistent level of aggression and stuff, and consistent driving, and a sort of a long-term effort in terms of the fight to win that. Whereas Chomp needs, I think, a hit.
Chomp needs a critical hit, but it needs it early. Because even if they take the weapon out, I think Warhawk can control the direction of the fight. Which, when it comes to judges, which I think we've both agreed it probably will favour them in terms of control, certainly, and aggression, probably.
Yeah, but if Chomp get the hit in the first 30 seconds, what aggression can Warhawk do at that point? And what damage can it do at that point?
Can't do significant damage, but it can push around a lot.
Is that aggression? I can't remember. I can never remember.
Oh, we haven't actually agreed if we're going with the modern interpretation of the BattleBots rules.
I thought it required the weapon to get aggression points.
It did, but this has always been a combination of BattleBots and Robot Wars, and that idea of aggression wasn't present in Robot Wars. In Robot Wars, pushing people around has always been aggression.
We've had a conversation like this quite recently, where I think we decided that because this was happening in the BattleBots arena, it was the BattleBots judging.
Oh, that sounds very familiar.
I think that's what we concluded.
And how chomp it would be for that to be the deciding factor. The broken definition of aggression strikes again. In the context of that, it does feel a bit more reasonable to go 3-4. In the context of that, there's probably an argument for going 4-3.
I wouldn't go that far.
I say, it isn't an argument I'd make, but I think it's there.
I could see it, but I agree with you that the Warhawk has more ways to win. Like this is like I said, I'm talking about if Chomp gets a sufficiently gets a hit on that motor in the first 30 seconds. I think that's what changes the flow of this fight. Because if they get that a minute and a half in, that they've got a minute and a half worth of Warhawk level damage and aggression to catch up on, which I don't think they can.
I'm much more sold on 3-4 now. Okay. I'm happy with 3-4.
3-4, let's do it.
And I honestly don't know what I'm hoping for in this role now.
You're going to have to... Well, I want it to be a 3, because I think that would just be brilliant.
You want lots of things.
I want it to be a 3, because I feel like you'd implode.
Go on, then.
It's a 7.
A consummate victory for Warhawk.
Warhawk decimated Chomp here. No messing around.
I do feel quite... I say I feel good about that result. I'm slightly relieved. And this is a horrible thing, but I am relieved to not have to discuss Chomp again. Just because of the level of mental stress it put me through in terms of trying to balance my biases.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to miss Chomp. But no, I feel like we did the right thing. I think we gave the right odds, and this is a reasonable outcome. So this is fine. I think we've got through that relatively unscathed. I
hope you're right. At least the next one shouldn't be too tricky.
It's not like we've got YouTube comments to worry about. I'll wait.
Next up, in a moment of self-doubt over how something is pronounced, we have Lycan and TR2.
I'm glad that was you and not me.
Just thinking of all the potential alternative pronunciations of Lycan now. Lycan? Lychan?
Have we done... I've got to say it now. Have we done Coyote yet?
We've done every single robot because we've done the first round.
Well, have we got that? I suppose we've got that. I can't remember if that's coming up again on. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Lycan versus TR2. I feel like you should like this robot, Lycan. This looks like your kind of robot.
100% my kind of robot. And I remember when we sort of got to this stage, I sort of shared the upcoming fixtures with a few people. And I had it in my head that a lot of them are really close. And people very validly said, are you sure these are close? Because some of them aren't that close. And I was like, yeah, but look at Lycan TR2. That's really close. No, it's just not, is it? Pure bias on my part. I just really like this robot. And I was trying to sort of make all these arguments about, well, it's in the battle box, that doesn't favour flippers. It also doesn't favour control bots, does it? Definitely doesn't favour really steep wedges.
No, I want to hear you try and convince me to do anything other than 1-6 for this fight.
It'll be fun. The potential matchups for Lycan in future rounds are potentially more interesting than having another flipper go through, even if it is a really good one, genuinely one of the best ones in here that hasn't really had the profile it deserves because of weird Robot Wars selection decisions.
That's not how this tournament works. We're not deciding winners based on future fights. We're deciding winners based on this fight.
Yeah. Lycan is really cool because it has an interesting weapon mechanism and hyper-powerful drive, which would make it really well suited to a lot of live events, but not at all suited to BattleBots. And as with anyone that brings a control bot to BattleBots, they were essentially making a donation to, well, ABC at the time it would have been, and their show, by giving them their time, effort, and money to go and have no hope of winning. And maybe I just thought, Sam, that Retuncti could be a place that rewards that.
It is. Lycan is further on than it has any rights to be already.
Actually, yeah, it beat Mecha Rampage on a sort of 2-4 against it, which isn't a massive upset, but I must admit, looking at the name Mecha Rampage, then looking at the picture of Lycan in front of me, I do question whether that really should have been 2-4. But hey, mistakes of the past. Can't do anything about them.
It's happened. Lycan made it here. It's done well to get here. But now it's facing 2-2. And what hope has it got?
I feel like we're in danger of doing what we did last time, which is not getting around to discussing how good TR2 is, because we're distracted by the other robot. And I just want to acknowledge what a fantastic record TR2 actually has. 8 wins and 1 loss in Robot Wars.
That's a solid record.
That is, I think, the same record that Carbide had in the same series. And Carbide was the champion. But no, Carbide lost twice that series.
What do you want me to say, man? I have no idea.
No, that's a fact that I've just checked on the notes down below, because we're also doing Carbide this episode.
Okay. Well, there you go. Better record than Carbide.
I feel like this isn't the most effusive defense of TR2. It's very fact-based, but TR2 was an extremely good robot. I think the one thing that's going to hold it back in Retuncti terms is the fact that it is a robot from, 2016 or 2017. What year was that? I don't know what year Robot Wars happened, Sam. Everything's kind of melted into one decade.
Oh dear, all this isolation is getting to you, isn't it?
Oh, genuinely, yeah. Time no longer matters.
Oh man.
Let's make this simple. It's a 1 and 6.
It is a 1 and 6. I mean,
no one is going to argue with this.
I don't know. We've got YouTube comments, man. YouTube comments.
They will support us entirely.
I agree with you on TR2. I think it is a great robot. I wish I could say more. The problem I have, I'm going to criticize it briefly, is that it's a triangular flipper. I don't know what there is to say about it. It lacks a certain personality, in my opinion. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think because it came at the beginning of the reboot and then didn't get the chance it deserved after that, there are other robots that kind of took its place in our minds. If only Series 8 had happened, everyone would remember TR2 and no one would remember Eruption. But because another flipper, or I suppose another couple of flippers really, became more prominent over the course of the reboot, TR2 gets forgotten. I'm just saying, 'cause it's got some really sort of neat touches. I love the sort of forky, spiky thing halfway up the wedge that stops things just ramping over the top. Little touches like that it has are really good.
Yeah, and this sort of superfluous axe thing on the back. Like, while I'm not looking at it and going, oh, that's going to do some damage, it's just, I like that they've put that there, It's like, well, we might as well put that there. Just in case they get a moment of glory with it.
You got to have a bum axe. If a bum axe is an option, you got to have it.
Build a robot that is entirely bum axe. What would that even look like?
I mean, it would just be hello there in reverse, surely.
Oh dear.
What's funny about the bum axe as well is that Eruption did have its own kind of equivalent of that with the stupid little nibbly drum at the top.
Yeah.
Series 8 was weird.
That was very weird. The bum axe is better than the weird little nibbly drum. I'll tell you that.
Oh, 100%.
Superior
I look
bum
forward
axe.
to talking...
I'm just looking for titles now.
You very rarely get the title, so you got to put more effort in. I look forward to discussing TR2 in more relevant detail when it gets the kind of matchup it deserves in the next round of Rotungti.
Dude, if TR2 loses this role...
I know exactly what I might be setting up, Sam. I'm confident.
All right, then. I'm going for it. 1 and 6. It's a 2.
So the fact I didn't immediately hear a loud noise told me that everything was fine.
I need to get better about like hiding the result and like building it up a bit, I think.
Oh no.
Keep you guessing. Yeah. Ooh.
I feel like I shouldn't have encouraged that.
To be honest, I don't think I have the self-control to do that. I think I'm just going to react immediately no matter what.
I think you need to maintain the illusion that you might do something different because that in itself builds suspense, if only for me.
Well, on the next roll, I might hide the result. But in reality, I probably won't. Whoa!
That happened. You've got to intro it now. I'm not following that.
We're talking about Tombstone and reality. What is there to say?
This is not as clear-cut as a lot of Tombstone versus fights will be.
I have to say, I was about to be like, this is clearly Tombstone, because I can't remember reality. But looking at the record for reality, it's like, okay, this is not a clear one and done type thing.
I kind of came in thinking quite easy fight until I looked at the picture of reality and was reminded of how sort of, it's going to seem like a strange phrase, but how roundedly tanky it is. It's not your sort of beta style of tank where it's loads of armour up front and then if something gets round to the back, fine, game over. Actually, I think Lucky would probably be a better example. There are probably many better examples of that, let's be honest. Terahertz would have been a better example of that, but that would have gone against the BattleBots example.
Look, you just wanted to talk about a beta, and that's okay.
Thank you. I needed that.
You know what else is more heavily armoured at the front than the back? Hello there.
It's true. Everything is hammers. You know, that they haven't gone that approach, and it seems like it's, you know, sturdy all around. You haven't got the classic Tombstone opportunity to come in sort of on the side with the little ray spin maneuver and take something soft. There aren't specific points that you look at and go, one shot, that's done. And because of the nature of its weapon, it does have that potential to get Tombstone off balance and have a little period of dominance from there where something critical can happen. How much of that is me reaching is up to you to decide.
I sort of agree that it is, you know, this is a tanky robot, and it's looks like it's armoured all round, and it's not made of bite points and stuff. But also, like, I feel like a couple of hits to the sides, although there is armour there, that would probably bind up the drive.
That is the other thing about what I'm saying, actually. I'm going, it's armoured all over as a good point, when there are probably other times where I'd have gone, oh, it's, you know, distributed its armour very evenly around. That probably means it hasn't got the strength where it needs it.
Well, I don't think this is an absolute guaranteed win for Tombstone. I feel like this is probably going to be Tombstone's fight still.
I think you can reasonably say that for most matchups. But it's not going to be the 6-1 that a lot of matchups could have been. You know, if Lycan were in reality's place, that's a 6-1.
Faux shizzle.
So I suppose what we're really saying is it's a 5-2. Because there's no way either is advocating for a 4-3.
Yeah, you're right. We've used logic and reason to come to a conclusion without even talking about Tombstone.
I mean, again, Tombstone's time is going to come, isn't it? It's not the kind of obscure robot that you need to discuss in detail.
Tombstone is Tombstone.
So we're going 5-2?
Trying to get you to draw another meme.
Oh,
yes.
I'm done with that, thank you.
5-2.
You're hiding something.
No, it's a 2.
It's a shame.
not that exciting.
It would have been nice, if we're going to have drama, it'd be nice to have it, in favour of a Bogglebots competitor, but...
That would be nice. Alas, not possible this time.
Something I wanted to ask as we were discussing reality. Are you aware of Ominous?
No.
There's a link on our notes that I think you should click to take a look at Ominous.
I love it already. I've seen the still frame for the video and immediately am in love. Let me watch this video.
This, by the way, is a test drive without the weapon on.
Yeah, I hate that on Instagram you don't get video controls.
I hate that Instagram exists.
Oh, this is so ruining the backup recording of your track at this point. Well, that looks... I haven't watched the whole thing. That looks very exciting. I love it. I want one. What weapon will it have?
Oh, it's a Vert.
Ooh. Oh. Oh.
A 3-wheel drive, omni-wheel Vert.
I've got to see that. Ooh.
I mean, this is from the man who gave us Wayo. So you know it's going to be beautifully made. Reality, the same. To be fair, Reality was also wonderfully put together. And again, the aesthetic of those big red tyres. Oh, yes. Big fan.
Good work.
Oh, boy. I've just realised what's next. All of the biases.
All of the biases.
There hasn't been a single fight that we've not had a bias in yet, has there? I suppose you probably didn't have a bias in Tombstone Reality.
Tombstone is probably the least bias. It's like that was like a bias founded in Tombstone wins a lot of its fights more than anything.
Yeah, but I was more biased towards Reality because I liked Tim.
Well, whereas in contrast to me, who clearly hates Tim.
It's the only possible explanation, yeah.
Of course I hate Tim. He builds beautiful robots. How could I do anything other than hate him for it?
The only thing I hate about Tim is the fact that we haven't had a chance to fight him.
That is true.
Not that would last very long, I'm sure.
We should resolve that one day.
I mean, there are so many people we want to fight. That's the problem.
Maybe we should organise our own event. That's just like, come here and beat us up.
The Hello There Invitational.
grossly overestimating how many people actually want to do that.
I mean, we've had enough requests. It's a thing that's fun to hurt. What are we supposed to do? All right, I'm going to get us into the next one, unless you need to review, what these robots are.
I mean, I can't, to be honest. Monsoon, it's a pretty unknown robot. I'd have to go look up what it is.
Isn't that some stupid glass cannon beetle weight?
Yeah, I don't know, just made by some ass that just, doesn't even like bring food to things. I mean, come on.
I love how much you're struggling with this.
I'm struggling to think, like, I got nothing. Be less nice, Tom. God damn it.
You can't even think of a fake insult for it.
I'm a failure. I've let myself down.
I mean, I can criticise their quizzing ability. They came rock bottom last.
Oh, dear. Well, get me involved and we can fix that problem.
Up next, we've got Monsoon and Captain Shredderator. I feel like I accidentally said that with an air of disgust that was not intended.
Monsoon and Captain Shredderator.
Oh, full of body spinners. Not on my podcast. Captain Shredderator is just a big Wayo without the funky green light.
I mean, if that's the way you want to phrase that, then sure. I mean, there's probably an argument to be made that Wayo is just a small green Captain Shredderator.
I mean, this robot has been around since pretty much the dawn of time. Yeah, in its sort of various forms in the 90s and 2000s, if you sort of take that as the lineage that it really deserves to be taken as, this is like a 20-year-old robot.
Well, I think, to be honest, if you go look through some of the pictures that the Hubble Space Telescope has taken, like occasionally you see Captain Shredderator just there floating around in the early primordial soup of the universe. That's how long it's been around.
It's somewhere halfway up the second pillar of creation, I believe.
This thing existed since before photons were a thing.
Does that mean the Big Bang was the first time it broke down?
Yeah, Captain Shredderator breaking down since the Big Bang.
The big fizzle out, that would be.
Is Shredderator why all galaxies spin, do you reckon?
It gave up its ability of spin so they could. It is genuinely a little bit sad to sit here and look at its record and see that it has struggled for wins so much. Yeah, it is one of the ever-presents of modern BattleBots and has such a rich history from sort of the televised era before and the sort of live era in between. It is, in a very genuine respect, a bit of a legend.
It's sort of impressive that you can have what I think is a very iconic and quite influential robot, I would say, with this record that we're looking at here of 2 wins overall. Like, it is a bit of a shame, but it is still a pleasure to see Captain Shredderator in any tournament.
I think its performance in the reboot is really about the direction the sport has moved and the way that a design like this is just so difficult to make work.
Yeah, because it's quite sensitive to hits in the wrong direction, really, isn't it?
It's sensitive to hits in any direction. Any direction is the wrong direction for it. Because whatever direction it goes off in, it's pinballing off of a wall.
Yeah.
It's struggling for control and it's taking damage in the process. I think that I've probably defended full body spinners a bit over the life of this podcast, based almost entirely on the success that Megabyte had in one series of King of Bots. Which, with hindsight, isn't as impressive a thing as I probably wanted it to be.
This is the story of your career on Spinnerproof, isn't it? In hindsight, that wasn't as good as I thought it was.
I don't think that is the story of my sort of Spinnerproof career, because that implies that I've been able to recognise this repeatedly. I think this is actually quite a new thing, that I'm acknowledging these flaws.
It's only in hindsight that you can see the flaws. And only in hindsight that you can see the flaws.
Let's talk about Monsoon before this becomes too cyclical. Monsoon does do well out of the fact we're not looking at 2019. Certainly a stronger debut than a sort of difficult second album, as it were.
What can we say about this that we haven't said about Tauron?
Well, this one worked.
This is true. This one does work.
And was powerful and sort of just consistently impressive. We didn't say any of those things about Tauron.
I suppose when talking about Tauron, we spent the whole time talking about Monsoon in a way.
Yeah, pretty much. I do wonder how good a matchup this is for Monsoon.
Yeah.
This to me feels like a fight that's potentially at least going to be completely defined by the first hit. And that could favour either of them.
I feel like that's more likely to favour Monsoon. Because, like, if it's going to... Not necessarily in a Monsoon will... what do I mean by that? I mean that one hit is more likely to break Shredderator than Monsoon, I think.
See, I was thinking it's either something like Shredderator losing a tooth, if they go with the sloped shell, which I feel like they would for this. Or maybe they go for the other one for the faster spin-up. But I think they need big impactors to really do anything to the sort of shaped shell of Monsoon.
Yeah, I think the sloped one seems like the better choice here.
So I'm thinking it's either them losing a tooth, or it's Monsoon sort of having the forks bent, which feels slightly more likely to me. And I think they're kind of equally impactful. Or there's a potential for that sort of sideways hit to really harm the bar of Monsoon. I don't know.
I don't know that Shredderator would lose one of the teeth on the bigger sloped shell, though. Like the teeth on the other one come off as if they're held on with, flour-based glue or something. Whereas
if that shell loses a tooth, it doesn't really matter. That's the thing, because they're quite lightweight. Whereas the bigger one, I think it was Endgame they lost one against, and of course that has a big sort of unbalancing effect. Or was it Black Dragon, which didn't happen? But either way, it's something that, because they're quite big targets, you feel like if one gets taken off, it then has a big effect.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like if Monsoon gets a good hit on Shredderator, whether a tooth comes off or not, I feel like that, that just does the classic thing for Shredderator. It sends them flying around the arena. bouncing and ricocheting off everything and just doing all kinds of damage internally, which I just don't see happening to Monsoon.
No, Monsoon's going to be better able to maintain control of itself. But I do think that the weapon-on-weapon hits have more chance of directly damaging Monsoon than directly damaging Shredderator. Because you've got, the forks that can get bent in and potentially foul the weapon. You've got, just generally sideways hits on a bar like that are not a good situation for the bar.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm thinking too much about the Son of Waiachi fight where the bar did get bent. I don't think Shredderator is hitting quite on the level of that. But it's a similar sort of set of circumstances.
Yeah. And sort of, I guess as well that Shredderator is probably low enough that it's not necessarily being sent flying up by that weapon. I don't know. It's hard to tell, I think, with that kind of thing. Especially with the sloped sides there. Like, I feel like with the sloped shell for Shredderator, Monsoon is either hitting a tooth or nothing.
It's tricky because instinctively you say this is in Monsoon's favour.
Yeah.
Based on the success of the two robots. And my bias says it's in Monsoon's favour as well. But the discussion we're having implies the opposite.
But it's the discussion we're having to try and counteract our own bias. That's the question.
Not this again!
Well, because the thing is, as much as I like Shredderator, I don't rate it highly in fights like this. Or in many fights, to be honest with you. Like, it's a great looking robot. It's a staple of the sport. We all like it being there. But equally, I don't think the odds are in its favour most of the time.
Any discussion we have like this, the one thing that's always looming over it is the potential for Shredderator to lose without being beaten.
Yeah.
And this isn't even a situation where that's the only way for it to lose, because there are still a lot of ways that Monsoon actively beats it anyway.
I do want to give this in Monsoon's favour, but I don't think it's a landslide thing. I don't think we're looking at a 6-1 here.
I want to give it in Monsoon's favour, but I don't know if I trust our reasons for doing that.
So are we looking at a 4-3?
Yeah, but I'm still not convinced of what direction that goes in. I can't believe I'm sitting here saying that it could be in Shredderator's favour. I wouldn't have expected that coming in.
The thing is, I think it's 4-3 in favour of Monsoon. Because there is just that kind of, will Shredderator just die of its own accord? And it's got the worst competitive record as well.
The wins it's had haven't come against particularly competitive machines either.
No.
Original Death Roll was an art piece that became good later on. Vanquish had previously been torn in half and came in without the weapon even working. Although admittedly that probably made it more competitive in that matchup. But it still feels like a tricky matchup in terms of weapon type for Monsoon. I feel like what's going to happen here is that we're going to give it 4-3 for Monsoon. I don't think that's something that I'm able to change. And it's not something that I'm going to work particularly hard to change either, really. I just don't know that I'm going to be comfortable with it once we've done it. And another part of me is saying that we should be going 5-2 for Monsoon instead. because that part of me is going, if Shredderator comes through this and gets into the next round, are we going to be sitting there going, how the hell did that get here?
No, that's not the way to be looking at this, I don't think.
And yet it's the way I am.
I do feel like Monsoon is the better robot here. And while it is easy, I think, to look at the fact that Son of Waiachi beat Monsoon and Captain Shredderator is a similar kind of horizontal weapon, I don't know that Shredderator's quite the same thing. And I don't know, like the reliability of it and all that kind of stuff, it really does just sort of, it is a big thing for me. And the fact that it's so uncontrollable as compared even to Son of Waiachi, you know?
Let me tell you brutally honestly what I want.
Okay.
I want us to be able to give this as 4-3 in Monsoon's favour, therefore satisfying me that we have, acknowledged the potential that Shredderator has in this fight, and I then want to go into that role knowing that it will be a 1, 2, 3 or 4. That's what I really want. That's what I sort of emotionally want here. I want to be able to acknowledge Shredderator without giving it a chance. Unfortunately, that's not how this works.
I think we do a roll for 4-3. I think that's how we're both feeling.
Yeah, and we just trust that the die rolls how we want it to. And want it to is such a poor phrase there. It's not that I want Shredderator out. It's just that I know what I'm going to be thinking if we come to the next round and come to it. It's going to be, huh?
Huh? Well, that could happen. That is the nature of the tournament, you know? Things happen.
All right, 4 and 3. Do it before I change my mind.
It's a 2. We're safe.
And this is like the only moment that I've not trusted you to say the number that it landed on.
I thought I'd put you out of your misery pretty quickly there. It's not at all that I forgot that I was going to try and hide results from you. It's that I was being kind.
Monsoon goes through. The wrong of Tauron has kind of been righted.
Yeah.
Or did Tauron... Actually, I can't remember what happened to Tauron. Did Tauron go through in the end as well?
I can't remember.
It did not. Cobalt went through.
Okay, we're safe.
We're safe. We can breathe.
Up next, we have Overhaul versus Bronco. Bronco.
Oh, not that again.
Bronco.
I don't think this is a tricky one at all, is it?
No.
I do have a note here saying that we need to sort out versioning on Bronco, which we've probably needed to do on a couple of other robots, and I just haven't done it. So, yay me.
Congratulations.
Are we happy to say that we're treating the kind of modern era versions as the same robot-ish?
Yeah, same enough, I think, aren't they?
Excellent. So we're, having all of the different armor options that they've had over the years, which the one they use here just doesn't matter because Overhaul does not have an answer to a flipper, as far as I'm concerned.
Wait, I felt like this was like completely in Overhaul's favour.
Oh yeah, we'll do that then instead. If that's what your conscience can handle.
Oh dear. Yeah, I'm happy with Bronco all being one with its ridiculous armour. That's fine. What
setup do you think Bronco would use for this, actually? It would just be their kind of standard configuration that we basically never see.
I mean, I'd have thought so. I mean, they might do the weird sort of like over the top of the wheels armour, just because they've got it and to recognise the potential that Overhaul has to do some damage to their wheels, maybe.
Thing is, the over the top of the wheels armour, I don't think actually goes over the wheels, does it? It just goes over the bodywork as a sort of anti-hammer thing.
Oh, maybe I'm wrong then. I thought they had something to cover the top of the wheels.
I mean, they still might do that just to be a bit taller.
Yeah.
And kind of harder to get into the jaws, but I do think that would also then create a grab point that Overhaul could actually come sort of hook over that would stop them then just flipper firing their way out of danger.
Yeah, I do feel like they want their normal armour. They probably don't want anything extra for Overhaul to get hung up on.
But they do have a history of putting on attachments that make things worse rather than better. The whole Pwanger thing against Verts that just made their lives harder.
Well, this is the thing. I feel like they might do it just because they got it, It's like, oh, we've got a thing that might be helpful for this, so let's just whack it on there.
And that might just make it a 2 in 5 instead of a 1 in 6. It won't, though.
Yeah, I don't think it will. Sorry, Overhaul, but yeah, I agree. They haven't got an answer to a flipper, really.
Yeah, as a control bot in the style they are against a flipper, there's really nothing I can... There isn't a bone I can throw them.
No, I mean, yeah. I can't. I'm racking my brain trying to think, what on earth could they do? I mean, maybe get them stuck in like the screws or something, but...
Even then, I think from most positions, Bronco can kind of force their way out of there.
Can just get out, yeah. And let's face it, the screws will just go backwards to free them as well.
The only thing we can give Overhaul to help them is the thing that we've already done in the structure of this competition in terms of it always being, at worst, 1 in 6.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
That's all we can do for them, and it's already done, so let's roll it.
If we have to justify Overhaul winning this fight...
Let's cross that bridge if we come to it.
I've rolled.
You have.
The answer is there, staring me in the face.
It's a 3, isn't it?
How do you know that?
No, not again!
How is this possible?
Oh, those cameras I installed all those years ago, finally paying off.
Oh my goodness me! It is genuinely a 3. I was going to try and drag that. I was trying to convince you that it was a 1, and then it was a 3. Oh. My mind has been blown. I'm checking this room for cameras now. That's it.
You know what I've just accidentally written? I've just written that Bronco beat Bike Force. Don't know where I got that from at all.
Oh dear.
It's also worth sharing another note that I made on the sort of Bronco page of our shared notes, which is that it beat Deviled Egg in the previous round thanks to odds of 5-1, and we did that before the 2019 season aired. And it does seem a bit generous now. But here we are, now giving it a comfortable 6-1.
Yeah. And the thing is, it wasn't the 2019 season we were thinking about. You know, we've got to ignore it. And I think we've done a fairly good job of ignoring its abysmal performance most recently.
Well, yeah, although, honestly, even if we'd been taking that into account, I would still have said the same. Because it's the matchup. That's all it is.
We don't have to admit that to anyone else, though.
Well, I have.
We could just say that we've done a good job of doing what we said we would do, which is ignoring the later series. But, you know, you've admitted it. You've put it out into the world. Everyone on YouTube knows now.
I mean, we all know that you did a good job of that. It's me that didn't.
I do a fantastic job of forgetting what happened in various seasons of BattleBots.
It's your specialist skill.
It's sort of like if I'm a mastermind.
It's what you bring.
What is your special skill? Forgetting everything.
That'd be a nice little con. Who played in goal for Arsenal in the 1988 Littlewoods Cup final? I've forgotten. Correct.
Yeah. I used to know that, I swear.
Our next fight is Basilisk versus Whiplash. And it brings with it trouble.
Why has this got 1.25 wins written next to it?
We started playing around with wins that didn't count as a whole win. I think it started off as winning a tag team is only half a win, and then we decided they did so little it was only a quarter of a win. Now, last time round, despite having done that, we gave Basilisk odds of 6-1 to beat Vanquish, and I think the feedback we received on that made it clear to us that that was very generous. And we weren't sure if we were going to do anything about it. So are we going to do anything about it?
What can we do about it?
Excellent. Let's move on.
Like, you know, it's happened. We've done it. We're not going to do a retcon here. You know, Basilisk is here. All we can do is try and do a better job of judging it. So instead of giving this 1-6 in favour of Whiplash, we're going to give this 1-6 in favour of Whiplash.
Perfection. I believe that when we realised, or when we sort of acknowledged that we hadn't done a great job on that fight, the first thing I did was look ahead to see who the winner of that fight was fighting. And I don't think we'd be giving a different result either way, would we?
No. Even with our generous odds last time, Whiplash has got this. The only problem we have here is if Basilisk somehow gets the upset here, which is going to be deeply upsetting because I have no idea how on earth we justify that.
What I find really funny, by the way, is that due to the way the rules of the game changed, Basilisk got here on better odds than Whiplash, and Whiplash had a board overlord.
Oh dear. That's not good. But both in the same way. Like, although it was better odds, it was in the same spirit, I think, where it was like the opponent didn't stand a chance. Because Whiplash got here having beaten a Walden Overlord. And again, I thought that was probably just in the case of a Walden Overlord doesn't stand a chance. So clearly it's Whiplash.
Yeah, we gave them both the best odds available at the time. It's just that when we did Whiplash of Walden Overlord, it was out of 6. And now it's out of a beautiful 7.
Yeah.
1-6. Roll it. I could at this point be clever and try to guess what's on there.
Don't do it.
I'm not. No. I'm well above where I should be in terms of success rate. Odds are I only drag it down.
I want you to guess. Because, like, I've got the answer. I know who won this fight.
I'm not doing it.
I want to know if you know.
I'm not doing it. I'm not even playing the odds and saying Whiplash, just in case. I'm walking away from the table and I'm cashing in my chips.
Okay. Well, you can cash them in. They're worth some money, and Whiplash won this fight with a 6.
Beautiful. I look forward to discussing Whiplash in actual detail at a later date because it's a great machine.
Up next, we have Expulsion versus Carbide.
Would you like to do some versioning?
What versioning is there to do?
So, Expulsion, we decided, the Series 10 weird football thing. That's all
Quaffle
good.
Expulsion?
Oh, I forgot about that. So, for context, because no one else is going to remember this, in the notes I'm doing, I've tried to sort of mention any weird things that came up when we last discussed it, and apparently, according to past me, Sam dubbed this version of Expulsion Quaffle Expulsion. And I am here for it.
I agree with past Sam. This is definitely a quaffle.
It's a unique design. That's what it is.
It certainly is. With 2 wins, that surprises me.
2 not losses. Yep.
Okay. 2 technically a wins.
Last time we discussed Carbide, we kind of skipped over versioning, as we tend to do for particularly dominant machines. At the time, the ethos was not discussed equals most recent, but since then we have started combining things a lot. Do we want to specifically take the Series 10 Carbide, or do we take sort of all 3 series worth of Carbide together?
I mean, this is frustrating that we've been so inconsistent with this. I mean, the spirit of what we've done recently is that we just combine them all, so we should stick with that.
I feel like the idea of trying to take a robot that's had 27 fights and only think about the last 7 of them was a dumb one on my part at the time. I think treating things as their whole history where possible is probably the better thing to be doing.
I mean, I think the evidence here is that we decided to do one thing and have slowly forgotten about that and failed to do it. And I think it's shown us the natural thing to do, and therefore the correct thing in this case is just the whole history. And so we should stop fighting ourselves on this.
I am okay with doing that going forwards.
Cool.
Did you want to look into Expulsion's 2 wins?
I mean, they can only have been by default, right?
Yeah, I think the push to exit one was the best, where push to exit broke down, but Expulsion still managed to then fall on its face and rotate very slowly in a vain attempt to self-right.
Yeah.
Which was ultimately unsuccessful.
I remember that. Yeah.
I think specifically, push to exit broke down, Expulsion came in to attack it, went over the floor flipper, and just ended up sat on its face, and it was a bit of TV.
Certainly was. Well, I think that despite Expulsion looking like a quaffle, it's going to be treated like a bludger.
I'm not certain that is accurate.
Look, I've done it now. I've said it. I've made another Harry Potter reference.
Didn't bludgers hit things rather than being hit?
No, they get hit. You got or is it the bludgers of the team? There's 2 members. They were the Weasley twins. I remember
Yes, they existed
in one of the teams, whatever team that was on, and you have the baseball bat things, and you whack the bludgers at people or something like that.
I don't remember there being bats at all. I thought it was like throwing and I don't care about Harry Potter.
Right. What we have here is 2 people that are not sufficiently familiar with Harry Potter trying to discuss the intricacies of a sport in Harry Potter. We should move on. We should give this the odds that it deserves and go on to talk about something that's a little less awkward.
I firmly believe that this version of Expulsion can take the hits, but at one point it's gonna land on its face, and that'll be it. For that reason, it is 1 and 6.
Agreed.
Also, the fact it's Carbide, that's a factor.
Yeah, the fact that Carbide is, got a pretty dominating win record here. Right then, I'm rolling.
I think that's a fake snigger to make me think it's a 1.
It's a 1, mate.
Well, got to brush up on our Harry Potter then, aren't we?
Genuinely. Expulsion has won this.
So, just to be clear, Expulsion got here by beating Pulsar, which was 5 and 1 in favour of Pulsar, 5 and 1 being the best we could give at the time. This technically is why we made Rotuncti. This is the kind of event it was built for. And I think we should all reflect on that for a moment.
What do we do? What happened? What happened to Carbide? I can't believe that's a 1.
Expulsion, I've only just thought of this actually, it's something we should have discussed at the time. Expulsion did have different attachments for that spinner, one of which was kind of flaily.
Oh.
So I don't know if that could have maybe... Obviously, it wouldn't have directly hit the chain of carbide, because it wouldn't have the reach to do that, but it could have, like, detached and been sucked in.
Yeah. I mean, that's unlikely enough. Sure.
We still then have to, work out how Expulsion managed to avoid falling over at any point. But careful tactical driving, maybe use of the pit button.
Maybe that thing got sucked in and then hit the back of the back of carbide internally, and did a bunch of internal damage. Maybe.
Yeah, or maybe it got sucked in but didn't actually break the chain, and some kind of clutch failure on their motor caused it to sort of stall out for a long time, creating all kinds of issues sort of electronically. Terms like browning out might have been involved that we fully understand. All
Yes.
kinds of bad electronic things. Maybe some kind of sparks, bit of current somewhere.
Yeah.
The voltage. Oh, don't even talk to me about the voltage.
There's definitely some impedance involved, and impedance is too fancy. Definitely some resistance involved.
An ohm or two was certainly a factor.
Yeah, I would say that certainly an ohm was involved. Maybe some watt hours here and there.
A little bit of flux, not a lot, but a little bit.
A little bit of flux, just a smidge of flux. How far is Expulsion going to go? This is insane. Who's it fighting next? Do you know?
We don't know.
We don't
know. It is technically already decided in that there's like a set of random numbers that have been used to order things. Actually, no, it's just a straight up bracket from here. So, hang on. This might take a minute, I'm afraid. So that's E31. Where does E31 come into? So E31 faces E33, so it will be the winner of the fight that we do next.
Oh, okay.
I've done a very straight through bracket, it seems. I must have just done that for simplicity.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
And that fight is between Supernova and Eruption. It's giving you no way out of using that as is.
That's fine,
I apologise.
The last time you did that didn't result in any kind of stress at all. That didn't result in me giving up editing for a while.
It didn't delay the release of the episode by a good 3 or 4 days. Possibly more.
It's fine. It's fine. I'll use it.
This is a tough fight.
Yeah, I think it is.
Eruption has previous on beating horizontals, such as Carbide, but the difficulty inherent in being a robot that needs to time its attacks against a spinner still remains. They've still got to find a way of driving into the front of Supernova and then getting a flip out, which isn't necessarily going to be easy. And it's not going to be without cost.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to doing that without incurring an enormous amount of damage on your own weapon.
I think immediately it's difficult, immediately there's a danger of us underrating Supernova just because it only had the one appearance in the reboot.
Yeah. I mean, I'm looking at Eruption's record here, and I feel like Eruption has a pattern of losing to horizontals. So like I feel like I would give Supernova fair odds for winning this.
I mean, can we just clarify what you mean by losing to horizontals? Eruption has lost 5 fights. 4 of them were against horizontals, but 3 of them were Carbide.
I'm sorry. I take everything back. Excuse me for trying to find a way to not underrate Supernova.
Look, I'm all for finding a way, but I will criticise the way if it's bad. Intellectual honesty, please. Here.
Well, okay, right. Look. All I'm saying is, it's consistently lost against Carbide, and now Carbide is a good robot for sure, but it is also like the horizontal thing. So if you consistently lose to a horizontal, even if it's the same horizontal, I still would argue that gives some. You can draw the conclusion that Eruption has something of a weakness to horizontals.
It has beaten 3 horizontals.
Irrelevant. I'm looking at the losses here.
In fact, it's beaten 4 horizontals. It's beaten Carbide.
I refuse to acknowledge my crumbling argument.
It's beaten PP3D. It's beaten Ironside. And it's beaten Terra Turtle. Now, you argue with that if you want, but that's a powerful set of 4.
It has lost to PP3D.
That was back in Series 8 when it wasn't very good.
Who do you want to win this fight?
I don't know! I guess what I've been building to here is that it is in Eruption's favour, but I would not make this a 1 and 6. I don't think Supernova is out of this fight completely. It does have a record of soft wins and hard losses, if that makes sense. You know, it's beaten Frostbite and Frostbite. It's lost to Pulsar and Ironside 3. It's got the Witch Doctor problem, but on a much smaller scale.
Yeah.
But just because of the type of weapon it isn't the kind of robot that Eruption can, you know, do what it did in its Series 10 heat, do what it did in its Series 9 heat against, and just oota everyone. It's not going to be quite on that level of ease for them. And Eruption is going to take damage, it is going to take hits, and there is a good potential for one of those to prove critical.
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, Eruption... It does have good armor though around the front and sides and stuff. Like, it has maybe not quite the sacrificial stuff, but it has stuff that's sort of there to absorb and sort of lengthen an impact, you know, to sort of reduce the shock.
Oh yeah, it has a reasonable anti-horizontal side, not as good as something like TR2. I think your classic, perhaps more boringly shaped wedge flipper is more optimised for horizontals than Eruption, because Eruption has a more interesting shape. It does hinder it a little in that respect, but it's still an advantageous shape and design. The fear would be the fact there are good bite points on those side pods. If Supernova is able to get around there, which is a sort of longer design, you feel like it has a chance of kind of swinging the weapon in, that's where it's going to hurt it.
So the two things, right, is that for me at the moment anyway, Eruption I think has got a history of being able to take a beating, and Eruption is also driven exceptionally well.
What it doesn't have is its preferred method of winning this fight. It's going to be difficult for it to get Supernova out of the arena. Whether it can control it well enough to pit it, flip it sort of hard enough and repeatedly enough to break it, or just do enough to score points with the judges is the big, well, I was going to say the big question, the big set of questions. And the answer for me is probably.
Yeah. See, while I agree that it would be very easy to dismiss Supernova unreasonably, I do still think that this is Eruption's fight, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Eruption is going to win this, probably.
Man, I wish we'd set up a fantasy tournament where we just get to decide who wins. It'd be a lot bloody easier. All of this acknowledging the nuance thing is really tiring. It's Eruption's fight, but how much is it Eruption's fight?
Yeah, to what extent? 2 and 5?
Yeah, that's where I've been going.
Yeah, that's what I feel.
2 and 5.
2 and 5, because like Supernova's got a good weapon, but like you say, its wins are sort of soft wins.
I think there will be those among the audience who feel this should have been 1 and 6.
Yeah.
Which is why this is now going to come out as a 2.
Right then. 2 and 5 it is. It is, do you want to guess?
Nope.
It's a 5.
And we don't have to take any flack.
Nope.
The perfect outcome.
Eruption hath won.
I think that's kind of a good reward for Eruption, considering we had such a tough time deciding its last fight, and it actually had to overcome odds to get here. It's a very Eruption thing to do, you know. It's already bypassed adversity. That means it's probably on the way to the title. I
don't know. It's got to beat Expulsion, and that's not a given.
I mean, they have technically beaten Expulsion already in the 10-way Rumble, so they got previous there,
but not in Retuncti.
Not in Retuncti, very true.
And what you have to remember is that in Retuncti, Expulsion has beaten Carbide.
It's a giant killer.
Which is, I think, a sentence I will never be able to say without laughing. Only in Retuncti. You can find the show notes for this episode at spinnerproof.com/episodes/76. And there you can find links to all the stuff we've been talking about today. You can also find a link to our Twitter at Spinnerproof, where you can tweet to us your favourite musical instrument.